Let's begin this hour with our next guest. Now, we have all seen now 2 years in this city, and it doesn't matter the developments over the last week, pro-Palestinian protests have continued in the city of Montreal. And now one lawyer wants to take Montreal Mayor Valérie Plante to court over how the city has handled those protests. Neil Oberman is the lawyer in question, says if the city fails to act in short order, he's going to go to the Superior Court of Quebec to compel compliance and to protect citizens' fundamental rights. Let's go to Neil Oberman. He's on the line. He's a lawyer at Spiegel Sommer. And Neil, of course, you ran for the Conservatives in the last federal election. Should point that out. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I just want a small correction. It's now Spiegel Ryan. We merged with another firm with Paul Ryan.
Okay.
For the purposes of clarity. But
yes.
Not a big deal. Not here to promote my firm.
Of course.
Talk about real issues for Montrealers. Very serious issue for Montrealers.
But we do want to get things correct when we have them. So Spiegel Ryan is the firm there.
Appreciate that.
So Neil, first things first, I have it on good authority. You're in Israel right now. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, what's the vibe in Israel? What's the feeling that you're going through at this moment?
So I want to say that I'm here during a historic and monumental time when peace, safety, and security is being brought to a region. People here are happy, but it's not a happiness that doesn't come from pain. Nobody likes to see death. Nobody likes to see war. And unfortunately, for the last 2 years, Israel had to defend itself against a monstrous terrorist organization called Hamas. And thank goodness for the international community, primarily the United States of America, no thanks to Mr. Carney, may I point out, in order to bring stability to the region. So the vibe is good, but it's cautious. And we in North America have to learn some lessons from what's going on here in Israel. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today a little bit so that I can inform your listeners what steps my clients have mandated me to take in order to bring the rule of law back to the city of Montreal.
So let's get to that. And of course, everyone knows what has happened over the last 2 years in this city with constant protesting. You bring up some of the reasons, the war that has endured over that time that got people onto the streets. But and I'm among them, the people that have said, whoa, enough's enough here. Some of the stuff that we've seen on the streets goes beyond a line in many respects. So what do your clients want here? What are they asking the city to do that they failed to do over the last 2 years?
Okay, so the points of view that I'm providing to you is with authorization of my client, and I express their point of view. I'm not here for myself personally. The first thing my clients want to tell the good people of Montreal and the Quebecois is that what you see here on the streets is pro-terrorist, pro-Hamas, pro-anti-democratic, pro-anti-Quebecois, and pro-against the law. This isn't about Palestinians and their rights. This is about people who are hell-bent on violating the law, intimidating people of the island of Montreal. What do they want? It's very simple what they want. They want to go back to a normal state of affairs where going out of your house, going into a business, getting into a public institution, you're not blocked by people who don't respect the law, don't care about Quebec, and certainly don't care about individual rights. They want to bring back a normalcy to the city of Montreal that has been absent for the last 2 years. Period.
So Neil, people have a right to protest in Canada. All your points taken on some of the things that we've seen that, like I said before, go beyond a line. But people have a right to protest, and then the police who've got to enforce laws. I've talked to them and I've heard from them where they say, "Listen, we've got a situation that could become combustible, okay?" And they're trying to keep the peace. And sometimes when police forces have to try and keep the peace, they may let people do things they normally wouldn't let them do. So, the police are trying to navigate what everyone I think acknowledges is a difficult situation. What do you want to see change here?
So first, I want to make a distinction for your listeners. There's a difference between freedom of assembly and freedom of hate, free speech versus hate speech. There is no legal right, and I'm an attorney, so I think I'm in a good position to inform you. There is no legal right to intimidate. There is no legal right to obstruct private businesses. There's no legal right to obstruct going into a church or going into a synagogue. In fact, it's illegal. So that being said, nobody wants to deprive people of their fundamental rights. If it's good for people to be able to come out in peace and tranquility, no problem. But what we see here on the island of Montreal is a complete breakdown of the rule of law. Now, the police have a very difficult job. Under Section 48 of the Police Act, the primary mission of the police force and each police force member is to maintain peace, order, and public security, to prevent and repress crime, and according to their respective jurisdiction, offenses under the law and municipal bylaws, and to apprehend offenders. My clients do not blame the police of Montreal. They do not believe the hardworking police officers, men and women, who dedicate their lives to defending people in Montreal. But what is the operative word in police? Politics, policy. Who creates the policy? The City of Montreal creates the policy. Now, the police are independent. We know from the legislative power of the municipality, but the reality is they set a trend and they send messages. My clients want to ensure that the City of Montreal, under its own charter, the Charter of Montreal, under Section 86 and following, that they have the obligation to ensure good government and the general welfare of the people in the city and its territory, period. What does this mean? Our demand letter is clear. If the city doesn't get things under control, which it should not have to require individuals to ask the city to enforce the law and make sure that they do what they need to do, well, then we're going to go to the courts. And that's what the rule of law is about. Use the legal system.
So, yeah, let's talk about how you're going to use the legal system here.
Sure.
Tell me, it's very interesting, right? Because you're trying to force the city to do something here. So tell me about, the legal arguments, the mechanisms in place that can force, a mayor to enforce laws and tell our police officers to enforce laws.
Right. So first of all, I'm not here again. I want to repeat for the purposes of this conversation. I'm here for my clients, and they believe, and based on the existing law, which is called a mandamus. And let me explain to your listeners what a mandamus is. Under Quebec law, a mandamus, which comes from the word mandatamus, which was we command, is an extraordinary recourse, I underline that for you, used to compel a public authority or official to perform a duty imposed by law. It is governed both by the Civil Code of Procedure and the principles of case law. So basically, the Quebec law, I'll use that generically, has a provision in which you can force a municipality to do what it has a legal obligation to do. Example, enforce a bylaw. It's very simple. And, can compel a municipality to issue a permit, for example, is used very frequently. And what we're going to be saying, and I don't want to give out my whole litigation strategy because I think that will be best suited for the courts, is that the city, have an obligation to keep the city safe. There are bylaws in place that could be enforced. They don't enforce them. It's probably because the mayor has a trend that she always uses, which it's free speech, it's freedom of assembly, but that word has been perverted by the municipality, by the City of Montreal, and by its officers, agents, and its directors, that doesn't apply anymore. There is nobody with any reason and proper orientation that will look at what's going on in the street, covering your faces, igniting incendiary bombs, blocking businesses, graffiti on public and private spaces, using very bad words like globalize the intifada. All words are aggression and violence, and they have to stop. And by the way, if you ask 10 people in the city of Montreal, do they like to be blocked when they go on their streets? 12 of them are going to tell you, no, we've had it, we're finished. So what do people do? They hire a lawyer. That's the job of a lawyer. We're not here to make policy. We're here to go and petition the court. And we will use the mandamus as an appropriate mechanism to ensure that something gets done. It must stop. The madness has to stop. No longer can the narrative work that this is free speech, freedom of assembly, about a bunch of people. They are simply perverting the concept of free speech. It will stop. The courts will do it. And God willing, tranquility, peace, and respect will be returned to the city of Montreal, as has always been in this great city of ours.
Neil, just before I let you go, on timeline here, have you received a response from the city? Or are you headed to court for sure? Are you hoping that they're gonna, respond to you before it gets into the courts and heed your calls?
I'm a simple, officer of the court, and I'm a simple servant of my client. When and if we get instructions, we will follow through with it. The letter is clear. It's sent to the city. The city doesn't have any obligation to reply to anybody. Everybody knows that you could write lots of letters and get no response. But what your listeners should understand is that when there's a problem, the best recourse is the rule of law. The best recourse is hire a professional to handle your problem. But one thing is most important. the city of Montreal, province of Quebec, has always been a place of equality, safety, security. This must return to the island, and it will be done by concerned citizens like my client who will be courageous enough, because let me tell you something, there's a lot of haters out there who will look to cause problems for people who defend their rights, but this will not impede proper administration to take place. And I can assure you, this will stop on the island of Montreal by using the rule of law, period.
Mr. Oberman, Neil, I got to leave it there. Thanks so much for coming on.
Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Neil Oberman is a lawyer at Spiegel Ryan.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.